What's going on, guys? In the works, and the Battlefield 1 multiplayer reveal is finally here. The moment we've been waiting for. We've got our first taste of what Battlefield 1 has to offer. And what'd you guys think? Seems like there's some mixed reactions out there. I've seen things from positives to negatives. But we're going to use this video to sort of talk about some of the thoughts I had coming away from the live stream and the trailer and just the overall Battlefield 1 presentation they had at E3 and EA Play. Unfortunately, I will not be able to make it out there this year. My flight was supposed to leave tonight. Sort of conflicted with my work schedule, so I'm opting to sort of do this from the sidelines this go around. But we're going to talk about some of the things that I've personally taken away from this. I'm going to avoid doing a trailer breakdown. There's plenty of those out there. If you want a frame by frame type thing, there's no shortage of those. That being said, in the background, you'll likely see some footage just pulled from, still frames from the live stream, just still frames in general that do sort of enhance what we're going to be talking about. That being said, let's get right into the big thing, which we've talked about in a couple videos in the past, and that's map design. It's no secret that the maps in Battlefield 4 were not as good as the maps in Battlefield 3. They just weren't designed well, they didn't play well in all the game modes, and it was honestly one of the things that hindered it most. So going into Battlefield 1, I really wanted them to take a step back and look at map design. Because the last thing you want is a map that's too small or a map that's just way too big, because bigger is not always better. And with the map they sort of showcased in the live stream, you didn't really get a good feel for how the maps were going to be in the game. It kind of reminds me of when they revealed Battlefield 4 and they mostly showcased Siege of Shanghai. Yeah, there were some close quarter moments, but I actually consider that to be a pretty spread out map just based on the way it's designed. You get a lot of traffic in one spot, and the other points are sort of forgotten just because they're so close to the spawn. So I was actually pleasantly surprised to see an interview between Eurogamer and the creative director of DICE sort of touch on the philosophy they had in creating the maps for Battlefield 1. It seems they're letting the maps be based off game modes instead of the other way around. And what I mean by this is, you don't make a map like, let's say, Operation Firestorm, and then you try to fit the game mode in it. You make the game mode, and then you design the map. They're asking themselves, will this play well on Rush? No. Probably should tweak it here and there then. So that was definitely one of the biggest takeaways I've had from all the information that's been out there so far for Battlefield 1. And it's not something that I think a lot of people have taken into thought. I mean, it's no doubt that the maps are beautiful. All the landscapes they were showcasing, especially some from the trailer, were just absolutely jaw-dropping. The weather effects on the maps, where the water pulls up in certain scenarios, you've got water on your gun from the fog. That's amazing. But at the end of the day, you want maps that play well versus look good. But let's move on to the next point, which is going to be about the weaponry and vehicle gameplay in Battlefield 1. And it seems like there's going to be a pretty heavy emphasis on vehicle gameplay, which is outstanding because you wouldn't be playing Battlefield if you didn't like vehicle gameplay, because that's what other shooters are for. I mean, Battlefield's all about the true wartime battle experience, and you have to have vehicles for that. Vehicles were an integral part of World War I, so it's not really shocking that we see them be an anchor in most gameplay here in Battlefield 1. So I'm pretty excited about that. I love the fact that they're introducing vehicle classes, where you're going to have a pilot class and a tank class. I think that's a brilliant way to approach it. We might actually see less people using Abrams as like a taxi. Obviously, Abrams didn't exist back then. But if you played Battlefield 3, Battlefield 4, you'll know there's nothing more frustrating than someone taking their main battle tank all the way up to the objective, jumping out of it, and having the other team steal it. Pretty frustrating. So maybe we'll see less of that because the tank classes are likely going to have lower powered weapons. And based on the live streams in general, it looks like there's going to be a good selection of weapons out there. We saw the artillery. There was a lot of little clips there in the trailers and the gameplay of people using artillery. There's going to be LMGs, shotguns, the single shot weapons, mounted trench LMGs. There's a rocket launcher where you have to lay down on the ground to sort of mount it up, and that's going to be like your anti-vehicle launcher. That's really cool. I've heard that it's kind of a pain in the butt to use. It doesn't do a lot of damage to the big tanks, but apparently it just like absolutely smokes the smaller tanks. That's fun. I think that sounds exciting. It's going to promote squad gameplay. It's going to promote you being smart about where you take your tank in. You can't just roll it in there and expect it to be all powerful. So there are some positive takeaways from that. Now, weapon damage in general. This was interesting to me because I saw some more developers talk about they designed the maps to promote in-your-face gameplay. And I mean, World War I was about being in your face. It was about trench warfare. And there seems to be a heavy emphasis on just melee. There's the melee charge now with the bayonet, where you basically become this like raging bull, and you charge towards the target, and it can't be stopped until you like hit something that impedes your path, or you kill them, or you die. And I think there's going to be a lot of scenarios where you just die. So I'm a little worried about it. It might become like a commando lunge. If you ever played Call of Duty, that was a similar thing, a little bit faster, but it was really hard to kill people as they charged towards you. So I don't think it'll come to that, but I am sort of getting some flashbacks to that. But it's no secret that if you want more action on maps, you need to make your weapons do less damage. I mean, that's just the nature of the beast. In no scenario should we have an SMG that's picking people off at like 100 yards, like in 3 bullets. Make that SMG take like 10 bullets. That'll make you think like, oh, maybe I should get a little bit closer with that. Same with shotguns, same with some of the single shot weapons. Obviously, snipers are going to be a big part of this. Based on the live stream, I saw tons of people sniping. I don't think we're going to get a repeat of Bad Company 2. At least I hope not. I think snipers will be a class where, yeah, you'll see a lot of them, but in classes like your classic assault/engineer class. Interested to see how that plays out, because that's one of the things I'm a little iffy about. From what I understand, the weapon damage is really good in this game. You're not going to be able to overpower someone with an SMG from long range. You're going to be focusing more on LMGs in that scenario. So I am overall really excited to see how weapon balancing plays out in the Battlefield games. It's historically always been one of the more advanced games in terms of deviations and weapon drop-off and stuff like that. So hopefully they continue the trend into Battlefield 1. Now let's talk about the final thing, which is going to be game modes. And we kind of touched on it a little bit during the map part. But this is the one thing that sort of wasn't talked about a lot during the stream, and that is the new Operations game mode. This is essentially going to be our new Rush. It's sort of their way of recreating the World War I experience, where each battle progresses you further. It's sort of like one person attacks, one person defends type scenario. In order to win, you essentially have to advance to the next point. Sounds awesome to me. Rush is my favorite game mode. I like the way it sort of incorporated all parts of a map. You start on one end, you work your way to the other. If you're a good team, you hold it. If you're a bad team, you don't hold it. I've always enjoyed that about Battlefield games, so I'm pretty stoked about this. I'll be completely transparent. I am excited. It's, you know, the operation sounds like a more large-scale Rush, which is always a good thing. Because Rush did kind of suffer in bigger scenarios. Like 32 versus 32 Rush on some maps just didn't work. It wasn't really that much fun because it's all about flanking routes. So Operations looks like it could potentially incorporate larger maps and just larger teams into the Rush-style gameplay, where it's not like A, either the map is way too wide open, or B, the map is just way too small and it just becomes like an Operation Metro. So I'm excited to see what they do with that. Those are sort of my major takeaways from it. There's a ton of information out there. Obviously, we couldn't fit this all into one video. Beta is going to be coming out later this summer. We'll all have a chance to sort of test it and get our own hands on it. But let me know what you guys think so far. It seemed like there are some mixed opinions. Some people loved what they saw from Battlefield 1. Some people hated it. I didn't try to get into a lot of the negatives that I saw just because I wanted to keep this video a little bit more positive, especially since this is a very early build and a lot of it was mostly speculation. Tried to keep this a little bit more positive. But like I said, leave a comment below what you thought of what we've seen so far. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.